Full disclosure before this video starts, I've never actually recorded my voice before, so it's going to be a bit up and down throughout the course of the video. However, I do feel like I start getting my groove towards the end. Enjoy. This siege on the northwestern wall has continued to grow, and this little purple dot in the middle means that there's a new biter faction. They are known as spawner biters, and appear to even make new nests or more biters. Regardless, I'm planning to fix my mistake from the last episode by automating blue and black science. I'm not aiming for a massive amount of production because I have a lot of work to do on the trains and on defences, so it only needs to accumulate slowly in the background. My starting ore patches are beginning to get a bit lean, so I'm going to clear out this area so I can bring in resources on trains instead. It may seem counterintuitive to destroy so many trees, but due to the Rampant evolution mod, trees dying due to pollution, it actually increases the evolution of the biters. But me throwing up grenades doesn't, and because they're so close to the base, they're bound to die eventually, so this is actually a good idea. To put this into perspective, by the end of this episode, 70% evolution had been caused by dying trees, while only 10% had been caused by spawners absorbing, and 6% had been caused by destroying spawners. There is a trade-off, however, as trees absorbing pollution actually decreases evolution up until when they get destroyed. By the end of this episode, I had minus 36% evolution from trees absorbing pollution. You might notice here that my tracks take no damage from grenades. This is an option from the Rampant mod, which makes tracks, large power poles and rail signals indestructible, which makes outposting easier. You might think this is cheating, but it's completely necessary to maintain my sanity, as it's already difficult enough without having to run out and replace power poles every 20 minutes. To supplement my dying stone supply, I built this janky setup to bring in stone from the mine we secured last episode. The diagonal unloading setup might be one of the most cursed things I've ever created. However, while I'm working on it, I get the sound. Arriving on the scene, I can't immediately tell what happened. It was most likely just a lucky spit from a spitter took out a power pole and deprived the gun turrets of bullets. However, to be safe, I take out the yellow ammo from them so they start picking up red ammo from the belt. Here we can see the extent to which the siege has grown on the northern wall. The spawner spitters are now fully integrated into the swarm, taking up almost a quarter of it. I start to set up a station for the outpost train. However, I forget to actually leave space for inserters to pull out the chests. I am quite proud of the design, however. It allows up to 6 different resources to be carried on the train, and it sends a request whenever any of them fall below a set threshold. With flamethrowers set up, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable about this siege. So comfortable, I'm probably going to leave it there for the drama. It's time to actually connect a stone mine for that train to collect from. I set up an outpost train station in the southwest. Once this is connected, 100% of our defence will be running off the outpost trains from last episode. Next up is our first real taste of Rampant Arsenal. Right now, if you look at the research tab, I'm researching something called light artillery, which is sort of just like soft artillery cannons which can be used to keep biters away from the walls. No indication is given as to which ammo I should use, so I set up tank shells as it seemed like the most reasonable option. I set up this new train station, which the outpost train comes to after visiting the first one. This will fill it up on tank shells so it can take it to the outposts. I set up a half hand-fed assembler to start crafting artillery turrets. I won't need many, so this will be enough to last me a long time. It's time for the moment of truth. As it turns out, light artillery doesn't use tank shells, but instead uses a new type of ammo called launch ammo, which is added by Rampant. Any type of grenade can be made into launch ammo, so here we're making incendiary grenades to make incendiary launcher ammo. Since this is going to use a lot of light IO, I first set up Kraken so I can set all my refineries to advanced IO processing. We can finally see the light artillery in action. Its range isn't massive, but it's enough to keep the nests far away from the walls. Because their range is so small, it's most effective to have a couple of them along every wall. I made about 40 from that setup, so I have enough to cover the entire base. Yellow biter nests are starting to be mixed in now. These are called fast biters. No prizes for guessing what they do. Just in case you thought my rail system was anything but trash, here's the first of many deadlocks. I'm starting to set up light artillery on my entire perimeter. Here's me doing the southern wall. These white biter nests are called common biters, which are identical to biters from the vanilla game. Here's yet another deadlock. Before this playthrough I basically only used 1-to-1 trains, so it's been a struggle getting used to designing for longer trains. This is one of the biggest reasons we need light artillery. A worm too close to wall will be outranged the turrets, so it can sit there virtually unimpeded and destroy the walls. This is also our first introduction to fire biters, which are a late game faction which are entirely impervious to flamethrowers. I quickly set up light artillery on this wall to make sure this can't happen again. Yet another deadlock. I'm going to stop showing the small ones after this, and hopefully eventually once I do this enough there won't be any more whatsoever. It's worth noting now that I have 3 outpost trains. This is to make sure that none of the outposts ever run out of ammo. I'm setting up artillery on my southwest border now. Once this is finished, all of my walls will be protected by artillery. Here we can see a nest creation in action. When the purple cloud forms, the biters inside the group will begin turning into nests and worms. I don't let that happen. We only have around 2 million copper ore left on our walls, so we expand down south towards a copper patch to build an outpost. We also get some use out of this tank finally. With so many tiny targets, the game's aiming system actually starts to struggle to swap between them. There's also biters on top of the copper patch. Because there's so many obstacles I can't use my tank, so I use turret creep to take out the nests. Once it's all cleared, I leave a square of turrets to stop expansions onto the patch while I build the perimeter. Next we build a pair of train stations. One of them is there to house an outpost train, while the other one's there for another train to come pick up copper. I immediately start building a turret wall on the patch so we can begin mining from it. This is the same as every other wall I've built, so I'll skip until when it's finished. Whenever an expansion starts too close to my walls, it leaves these massive damaged patches from the purple goo. To this end, it is clear that I'll soon need to set up robot parts for automatic wall repair. With the patch fully defended and artillery set up, we're ready to start mining it. This is the one downside to fire artillery. Because of one biter among the trees, the entire forest to the north of the resource patch is toast. I didn't have enough belts on me to fully connect all the mines, however this is enough to stave off a copper shortage for a long time. Talking about shortages, I connect this iron patch to my train network, as steel production is taking up most of the output from the old one. This is what I've needed all this extra iron and copper for. I want to build a dedicated green circuit factory on the train network. The reason for this is because once producing all science, green circuits take up over a half of all the copper and almost a quarter of all the iron used. This means that if I produce them here instead of on the bus, then my bus can be much smaller, which saves a lot of space and complexity. It's worth mentioning at this point that I'm using a mod to allow me to pick whether inserters insert on the close or far side of the belt. This is to make some setups much easier and more compact. It's also because it's the only thing that fit above my smelting lanes, I didn't want to rebuild them. Now that we're producing green circuits, I can expand my bus and start producing some advanced products we should have been making sooner. First I set up this train stop to take in the green circuits. Now that it's connected with the bus, I can disconnect the old setup because we don't need it anymore. Next I build this red circuit setup. I use this dead simple design which lets me expand up to 36 red circuit assemblers if I need it. The most important thing I can do with red circuits is build modules. I will be making efficiency modules to reduce power usage and productivity modules for my labs. The most important thing for right now is reducing pollution, as in the last couple of hours evolution has jumped from 25 to 62%. If I don't reduce my pollution soon, I'll quickly find myself outpaced by the biters. My two biggest polluters currently are boilers and electric miners. The pollution from mines can be offset easily using efficiency modules, however for the boilers we're going to have to go for a different approach. The most obvious answer is of course nuclear power. It can be made almost entirely pollution free if we use efficiency modules, and it can output massive amounts of power. For example, a 2x2 reactor setup would output 5 times the amount of power that our current setup provides. We aren't quite ready for nuclear power yet, however we do set up some centrifuges to accumulate uranium-235 for when we are ready. Next we prepare to mass produce robots. I have a feeling we need a lot of them, I might even put them on trains eventually. I build this little setup but massively underestimate how many robot frame assemblers I could support, so I tear it down and build a better one. Connecting the entire base in a massive robot network would be a terrible idea in this mod, so instead I plan that every outpost train drop off will have its own robot network. This is why I put repair packs on the outpost train. Nuclear power buildings are way too expensive to handcraft however, so I build this setup to do it for me. Spot the missing part, because I didn't. This bus chicane is incredibly ugly, however I didn't plan this far ahead when I built the bus 15 hours ago. I also begin automating rubber parts so I can cover my walls in them. I first set up my copper outpost, as that would be the biggest pain to repair if something were to happen to it. Once the heat exchange is finished crafting, I start to spitball a design for the final power plant. This is what I come up with on the boiling side, however it's much more complicated when I start building turbines where throughput is a lot more important. In the background, while turbines craft, I completely cover armor walls and robo parts. To build the most fuel efficient reactor I possibly can, I need 40 steam tanks, which will hold a full burn of all 4 reactors. The design isn't perfect and probably won't reach its theoretical maximum of 480 megawatts, however I don't need it to. I don't plan to be on this planet much longer, and as long as it can reach about 400 megawatts, it will serve its purpose fine. Overall, we need 83 turbines to keep up with the 4 reactors, so this janky setup will finish it up. In total, I probably spent about 40 minutes messing around with complicated circuit conditions and clocks trying to get this reactor as fuel efficient as possible. I even set up this quirky time lapse once I thought it was working, but in the end it didn't. In the end, it often turns out that the simplest solutions are the best ones, so I pulled apart this janky circuit system. Now, the inserters are set to insert a fuel rod as soon as a spent one's ejected. This means to control when fuel rods are inserted, we simply need to control when they're ejected. To do this, I control the output inserters so they can only pull out a fuel rod if steam is below a certain level. With this, our reactor finally works and we can finish this episode. Thank you for watching, and tell me in the comments if you like the new voiceover instead of the text.